Have you ever looked into the eyes of your grown child? The one you used to rock to sleep, pack lunches for, cheer on at soccer games, and felt like you were talking to a stranger? Maybe you found yourself reaching for your wallet again, or biting your tongue even when everything inside you screams, "No more." If you've ever walked away from a conversation with your adult child feeling emotionally drained, confused, or even guilty, you're not alone. I want to talk to you today about something that far too many parents face quietly. What to do when your adult child keeps manipulating you. And before you think, well, my situation is probably different, let me gently tell you, it's not just you. This is more common than people realize, especially among parents who have always tried to do the right thing, who love deeply, and who are maybe just a little tired of always being the one to hold it all together. Now, if you're in your 60s, 70s, maybe even 80s, you've been through a lot in life. You've raised a family, paid the bills, dealt with your own share of hardship. And here you are, still trying to manage the emotional needs of a child who's old enough to take care of themselves. Maybe your son keeps calling, only when he needs money, or your daughter blames you for everything that's gone wrong in her life, and makes you feel like you owe her something for it. And every time you set a boundary, they get angry, lash out, or disappear until they want something again. It's exhausting, isn't it? So let's have an honest, heart-to-heart conversation. Because the truth is, manipulation doesn't always look loud or aggressive. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it comes wrapped in guilt, or sweetness, or stories that tug at your heart. And when you've spent your whole life loving and protecting your child, it's almost impossible not to get swept back into that pattern. But I want to help you recognize what's really happening underneath, so you can take back your peace of mind without losing your love for your child. Let's start with something that might be hard to hear. But stay with me, because it matters. Many adult children who manipulate others have become what I call masters of manipulation. It's not because they're evil or heartless. In many cases, it's a survival skill, especially if they're struggling with addiction, job instability, or emotional issues. They've learned to survive by getting their needs met however they can. That means using charm, guilt, emotional outbursts, or even silence as tools to keep people close and compliant. It doesn't make them bad people, but it does mean they've learned how to push your buttons because it works. And here's the key. It works because you love them. Most of the parents I speak to say, "But I just want to help." Isn't that what a good parent does? And I get it. You see your child hurting, and every fiber of your being wants to fix it, soothe it, make it go away. But what if, without realizing it, you're not helping, you're enabling? What if each time you rescue them from consequences, or say yes when your heart says no, you're teaching them that manipulation works? That brings me to something else I see so often, and it might sound familiar. Many parents, especially mothers, carry an enormous amount of guilt. Maybe you weren't perfect when they were younger. Who is? Maybe you went through a divorce, or worked long hours, or made decisions you regret. And now, your child reminds you of those things, or blames you for how they turned out. And the guilt rises up, and you find yourself giving in, even when you know it's not right. Guilt is a powerful manipulator too. I want to speak to your heart for a moment. You do not have to keep paying for mistakes you've already made amends for. You are not obligated to let guilt dictate your decisions. You're allowed to grow. You're allowed to forgive yourself. And you're absolutely allowed to expect respect, even from your own child. Another reason manipulation continues is because of how we react emotionally. Think about the last time your child yelled, cried, or accused you of something unfair. Did you feel your blood pressure rise? Did you get defensive, angry, or say something you didn't mean just to make it stop? It happens. That emotional roller coaster is exactly what keeps the manipulation loop going. Your child throws the bait, and even when you know it's a trap, your emotions take over. But here's the beautiful part. You can step off that ride. You have more power than you realize. And it starts with changing your reaction. Instead of reacting, what would it look like to stay calm? Not cold, not detached, just calm. Imagine your child raising their voice, and instead of shouting back, you say gently, "You're the only one yelling in this room?" It sounds simple, but it's powerful. It puts you back in control of the moment. And that's how you begin to break the cycle. Because when you stay calm, you stop feeding the fire. You show your child that they can't pull you into chaos just because they're upset. You teach them over time that respect is the only path to connection with you. And that's not just good for you, it's good for them too. Now maybe you're thinking, that sounds good, but what do I actually say in the moment? We'll get there, I promise. But for now, I just want to leave you with this thought. Love doesn't mean losing yourself. It doesn't mean saying yes when your heart says no. It doesn't mean letting someone else dictate how you feel or how you live. It's okay to love your child deeply and still say, "This isn't working for me." It's okay to say, "I want better for you, but I can't do it for you." And when you learn to stand strong in those moments, not with anger, not with shame, but with calm confidence, you start to reclaim your peace, your joy, and your life. Let's keep going. So, now that we've talked about how important it is to stay calm and step off that emotional roller coaster, let's talk about what you can say when your adult child is pushing your buttons. Because I know how fast those conversations can turn. 1 minute everything's fine. And the next they're upset, making demands, or throwing out words meant to cut deep. In those moments, it's easy to either give in or explode. But there's a better way, a way that allows you to stay grounded, keep your dignity, and still hold firm. Let's say your adult child calls and says, "I really need money for rent. If you don't help me, I'm going to be on the street. You're my parent. You're supposed to care." That kind of pressure, it's intense. It goes straight to your heart. You might feel scared, guilty, or panicked. But remember what we said earlier. Manipulation works because you care. And if you respond from fear or guilt, the cycle continues. So instead of reacting, you take a deep breath and say something like, "I hear that you're struggling, and I'm sorry you're going through this. But I'm not comfortable giving you money right now." Simple, clear, respectful, and most importantly, not emotionally charged. Sometimes it helps to reflect the responsibility back to them, not to shame them, but to remind them they're capable of solving their own problems. You could say, "You owe it to yourself to be part of the solution. I know you can figure this out." That statement is powerful because it says, "I believe in you," without sacrificing your boundaries. Now here's one I especially love when things start to get heated. Maybe they raise their voice or start blaming you for everything. You look them in the eye, or if it's over the phone, you keep your voice calm, and you say, "You owe it to yourself to speak to me in the respectful manner I'm using with you." It sounds simple, but it can stop an argument in its tracks. Because what you're doing is holding a mirror up to their behavior. Not to punish, but to redirect. You don't have to match their energy. You don't have to win the argument. You just have to stay steady. Another gentle but firm phrase you can use is, "I hear you. But this is not something I'm going to do." No need to explain. No need to defend. That's the beauty of being calm. It puts you back in the driver's seat. Now let's talk about the flip side, what not to say. And I say this with compassion, because I've said these things myself. Most of us have. In the moment, they feel like the only option. But the truth is, these phrases can undo the boundaries we're trying so hard to build. For example, "Okay, just this one time." Sounds harmless, right? But to a manipulative adult child, it's a green light. It tells them, if I push hard enough, I'll get what I want. Or how about, "You're right. I'm sorry. It's my fault." Even when it's not your fault. That one cuts deep because so many parents carry shame or regret. And when your child plays on that, it's easy to fold. But let me gently remind you, just because they say something doesn't mean it's true. You don't have to absorb their blame just to keep the peace. Another one I hear often is, "Why do you hate me so much?" That one comes from a place of heartbreak, I know. When you've loved someone their whole life and they lash out at you, the pain can be unbearable. You just want to understand. Why are they treating you this way? But asking why rarely gives us the peace we're searching for. In fact, it often leads to more frustration. Because the truth is, when someone is caught in their own struggle, addiction, irresponsibility, blame, they're not going to give you a rational explanation. They might not even know why they're doing what they're doing. And trying to squeeze an answer out of them in that moment will only lead to more heartache. Instead of searching for answers that may never come, shift your energy toward what you can control. And what you can control is your response, your boundaries, your peace. Here's one more that can backfire. "I'll loan you this, but I really hope you pay me back this time." That kind of statement doesn't create a boundary. It just creates false hope. And when they don't pay you back, it only deepens the resentment and disappointment. It's better to either give with no strings attached, if it's truly your choice, or not give at all. That way, you're not setting yourself up for more pain. The truth is, every time you bend your boundaries out of guilt, fear, or pressure, you teach your child that their behavior works. And that's why this keeps happening. Not because you're weak, not because you're a bad parent, but because you're human and you care deeply. But let's shift something here. You are not required to keep giving just because someone asks. You are not obligated to be manipulated, yelled at, blamed, or guilt-tripped just because you're someone's parent. Love isn't about surrendering yourself. Love is about showing up in truth, with strength, clarity, and calm. And yes, at first your child might not like the new version of you. The version that says no with kindness. The version that stops justifying, stops over-explaining, stops trying to earn their love through sacrifice. But here's what will happen if you stay consistent. They will adjust. They will learn that respect is the new currency. That manipulation doesn't buy anything anymore. That you can love them without letting them control you. And over time, that shift, that change in you, creates space for a healthier relationship. Not always immediately, and not always easily, but consistently. So if you're tired of the arguments, the guilt trips, the financial stress, the sleepless nights, start with your words. Choose calm over conflict. Choose clarity over chaos. Choose boundaries over breakdowns. You're not turning your back on your child. You're turning toward yourself, your sanity, your health, your peace. And that is not selfish. That is wise. There's one more thing I want to say today, and it might just be the most important part of this whole conversation. It's this. You can't rescue your child from the life they're creating for themselves. And the harder you try, the more you'll lose pieces of yourself in the process. I know that's hard to hear. Every part of you is wired to protect them. Since the moment you held them in your arms, it's been your job to fix the scrapes, solve the problems, be the safety net. And for a long time, that worked. You were the glue that held it all together. But now they're not 5 years old anymore. They're grown. And with that comes responsibility. Theirs, not yours. You are not responsible for their choices. You are not responsible for saving them from every consequence. And you are not responsible for how they respond when you finally decide to stop doing so. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means accepting that real change can only come from them. You can't force growth. You can't drag someone toward healing. You can offer love, but they have to choose the rest. Here's the truth most parents never get told. Rescuing is not the same as loving. When you rescue your child over and over, and from unpaid bills, broken relationships, poor choices, even jail time, what you're really doing is interrupting the lesson. You're stepping in where life was meant to teach. And instead of helping them grow stronger, you're keeping them stuck in a pattern that keeps hurting you both. And let me tell you something important. You are allowed to stop. You're allowed to say, "I love you, but I won't bail you out again." You're allowed to say, "I believe in your ability to figure this out." You're allowed to let the phone go to voicemail when you know it's another demand, not a real conversation. You're allowed to protect your peace. You may feel guilty the first few times. That's normal. You may feel like a bad parent. But let me remind you, enabling is not love. It may look like love from the outside, but it keeps everyone trapped. Real love, the kind that grows and heals and strengthens, is honest. It's rooted in respect. And it says, "I care about you too much to keep helping you hurt yourself." That kind of love requires courage. It means choosing long-term growth over short-term comfort. It means letting your child sit in the consequences of their actions. Not because you're punishing them, but because you want them to truly change. And here's the beautiful part. When you step back, it gives them the opportunity to step up. When you stop fixing, they may start facing. When you stop saving, they may start solving. Of course, it doesn't happen overnight. There may be anger. There may be silence. But over time, they'll realize that the rules have changed. The door to your heart is still open, but only to those who walk through it with respect. And you'll start to breathe again, sleep better, feel more like yourself. Because living in constant anxiety and fear, always waiting for the next crisis, is not the life you deserve. You've given so much. You've tried so hard. Now it's time to give something to yourself. Permission to stop rescuing and start healing. I want to leave you with this thought. Just imagine for a moment. What would it feel like to wake up without the weight of your child's choices on your shoulders? What would it be like to enjoy your days, your peace, your friendships, your hobbies, without guilt? What would your life look like if you started focusing on your own joy again? It's not selfish. It's necessary. Because when you take care of yourself, you're not closing the door on your child. You're showing them what healthy looks like. You're becoming the example of strength, of balance, of love with boundaries. And that is the most powerful lesson of all. So today, if you needed a sign, this is it. You don't have to live at the mercy of someone else's emotions anymore. You don't have to keep sacrificing your well-being for a version of love that leaves you empty. You are worthy of peace. You are worthy of respect. And you are worthy of a life that feels like yours again. If any of this resonated with you, I want to hear from you. Leave a comment below and let me know. What part of this message spoke to your heart the most? What are you ready to change today? And if you found this helpful, I hope you'll give this video a like and subscribe to Strong Elderly Life for more conversations like this one. Real, honest, and always here to support you in this chapter of your life. Because life after 60 isn't about slowing down. It's about waking up to the power you still hold. You are strong. You are wise. And it is never too late to reclaim your peace. Here's to living your best life, with love, with clarity, and without guilt. You've earned it.